Welcome back, dear friends. And I'd like to say thanks very much for all the lovely supportive comments that I've received the last few days, having posted the first video of the series on how to make an Arduino controlled clock with stepper motors and things. That's really good. I'm so pleased that people have found it interesting. Looking forward very much to starting on episode 2, where we're going to talk about different types of motor and how to control a stepper motor. What's he doing now, Jim? Well, if you remember, I've been working on this, which is for the bottom panel on the Dinosaur Time Machine. And that was where I learnt to use programmable strips of LEDs. And that was very nice and useful. And then the last thing I think I talked about with this is that I had used an Arduino Nano instead of an Arduino Uno, because it was just smaller and I had one floating around. It'd be easier for Ben to cut out a slot at the back to fit this on his radio. It's a 1950s beautiful wooden radio cabinet. So now it's time to connect that to that. That, if you've been watching the series quite a long time ago, last year, is the thing that's going to go on the top panel, the main control unit. And it's got sound effects, 15 of them in all, as the students or the kids in the schools turn the knobs and adjust the controls and that. It's got the sound quite often of me reading out each era, each dinosaur era. But Ben said that's what he wanted, and it used, if you remember, an off-the-shelf sound effects recorder player thing. I went for that because the budget's quite limited, and rather than me fiddling around with something like a teensy and a teensy soundboard and programming on everything, this just, you know, it was ready to use. It's got up to 32 different possible sound recordings, and the more you have, the shorter each one gets. I opted for 16 because I think that's 8 seconds long, I think, for each one, and that was fine. That's what we wanted. Thing is, having spoken to Ben about this, remember, it's got a whoosh. Well, it needs a whoosh as the LEDs all fly over, and then it needs some sort of rotating, thrumming time travel sound as these rotate once they're travelling back in time. That's 2. This has got 16. It had 1 free. So what I decided to do, I made an executive decision and removed the one that, I'm going to have to show you this, aren't I? I did have one that said when they move this up, time controller engaged, but take that off because also, thanks to some cunning wiring, when you switch that up, it also then engages the sound effects on this. So you switch it up and it'll read out whichever one this is pointing to. Oh, and by the way, I found the 2 sound effects on Pixabay. Fantastic. And they've got a load of whooshing ones to choose from, whichever takes your fancy, and they're royalty free, so I found a thrumming one and a whooshing one and then downloaded them. Then we dropped them into the, as always, lovely Audacity, select the bit we want, trim it down, and then save it or export it as a WAV file. Then I uploaded the 2 files onto my lovely Edirol sound recorder. What a beautiful little bit of kit. Excellent. And then took that into the other room. Plugged it into the RCA input, much better. It's got a microphone, but you always lose so much quality. RCA is so much better. To the headphone socket output on the little Edirol thing, and then just recorded the 2 on the first sound effect and the last one. So that's my life story out of the way. Now let's see if we can get those last 2 sound effects working by rewiring these 2 switches. Oh, one top tip. Don't solder onto boards, even if the power supply is switched off, even if it's switched off there. Don't solder. I have blown one of the inputs on an Arduino before by doing that, because there's some sort of potential difference between the soldering iron and whatever this is connected to. So unplug it completely. There, now we can solder. If you think back through the eons, I was fairly horrified to find that this sound effects board runs on 12 volts, but all of the logic and things, the amplifier runs on 12 volts, all of the logic runs on 5, and they've got the 7805 voltage regulator without a heatsink. Hot doesn't describe it. There's the 7805, and there's a lovely big aluminium heatsink that I've put on. And I really didn't have any idea how well that would work, because heat conduction through a thin sheet of aluminium, is it going to be big enough? Is it going to dissipate the heat? But it does. Very, very, very effectively. So I thought, okay, measured some currents and things, found that the logic circuit drew about 200 milliamps. That 7805 is about 1.5 amps, I think. So plenty of room spare to take 5 volts off to run this, because this draws about 150 milliamps fully on. Lovely. Found the little spot, convenient spot to take off 5 volts. That went through there. So that's lovely, and it worked. So then I thought, well, because of the whooshing and things, with this, it's going to have some sort of output from the Arduino Nano to tell that to trigger the right sound effects at the right points. Interesting stuff. So with a bit of careful experimenting, just to make sure, measure the voltages on these, just to make sure they're not being pulled up to 12 volts, because that would damage the Arduino, but they weren't, all at 5 volts. And you, as I say, you have to pull them down to ground, and they drew about 0.5 milliamp with them, so that's fine, no problem with that, because the Arduino can output about 20 milliamps or possibly 10 per output. So that's what the other two wires are for. They come back to 2 pins on the Nano. Because to trigger a sound effect, you need to go from a high state, say plus 5 volts, to 0 volts, back up again. This is the new bit, sound effects millis. And then very lazy, well, it wasn't lazy, because I didn't know whether this would work. In the loop routine, that's the loop routine that goes round and round and round and round very, very fast, forever, sort of. There it reads the potentiometer. If the potentiometer value is below a certain level, then it does the colour wipe as it's rotating. Once it's got over a certain level and under another certain level, it starts doing the random flicker. And as you don't know which way the potential is being turned, if you digital write to an output on an Arduino, it will remember that forever until it otherwise. So because that's the sort of, once it's gone past the random flicker, then it moves on to the white sweep where we want the whoosh sound. So when you turn it back down again, if you turn it down just at the wrong moment, it's still triggering the whoosh sound, and then you won't be able to get it to do anything else. None of the other sound effects will work. So there's 2 digital writes here that say set it back to high again on its way down. So we've reached this one. It looks at the sound effects millis, and if they're smaller than the current time in millis, then it adds another 100 to the time. So it's going to only revisit this in 100 milliseconds time. 0.1 of a second seemed like a good idea, and it did work. If digital read is 8, because you can look at them and see what they're set to as well, is high, make it low. Otherwise, make it high. So every time it goes round, it's going to set it low for 100 milliseconds, then high for 100 milliseconds, on and on and on. And after it's done, checked that little bit each time, then it's going to do the white sweep effect. And if you move it on to the rotating effect, exactly the same thing. It even uses the same variable. It just does that. Actually, let's just stop talking and I'll show you what it does and why it doesn't do what it should do. We have to have these two off, then we switch this over where it used to say something engaged.
155 million years ago, late Jurassic.
So that's nice, and then if they change that,
100 million years ago, mid-Cretaceous.
So, problem is, if I now switch that back to off, it all gets a bit complicated. Now, wait for the whoosh. There we are. and then that's the sort of rotating effect. Oh, don't you love these projects? Why is that not working? That was ridiculously complicated to work out. Crazy. In the end, I had my lunch and studied it and drew it some more times and think I worked out how to do it. It's just a case of moving 2 hours, one little block around. So we've got the starting position. So first thing, yeah, they engage that.
100 million years ago, mid-Cretaceous.
So the sound effect's working nicely. Now we need to switch both of these over a simple tripod. So I need to turn these both at the same time.
Time core activated.
Right, now because I've moved that round, what should happen now, we can start the flickery dickeries. Yes, move to that end. Yes, that's what we want. The lovely thing is it all sort of works backwards. Great stuff. So much for a short and simple video. I've worked out what the problem is. They all do work,
480
but
million years ago, early
if you give it a
Ordovician.
new pulse before the last one's finished, it won't find the new pulse. I could solve this problem with the sound effects, or the era readings, by having just a pulse, having the ground that connects to all the switches, all the triggers, pulsing on and off. I can't think of any reason why that wouldn't work. Yeah, so either 555 or another wire. Do I want another wire? I suppose I do. I could have another wire here and then create the clock pulses on the Arduino. What fun! I added a white wire to the others. They come round here. Look, so now we can find a spare, of which there are many, outputs on the Arduino, and then add a little bit to the sketch. So there we are. In the first part of the loop, I've got created a new variable, global variable called pulse millis. It does exactly the same as all the others. This is just constantly going to be switching it on and off every 100 milliseconds. Let's upload it and give it a go. How ridiculous, I forgot to mention. There's the USB socket. That was that capacitor glued very, very carefully, so there's no way that you could get a USB plug in there. Let's get it uploaded. The moment of truth. Let's switch on. So that's off. They're both in the off position. That's off because they haven't switched that on. Let's see what happens when we turn this on.
220 million years ago, mid-Triassic.
Lovely. Now let's move this
250 million years
over
ago,
to there
late Permian.
while the sound effect.
360
Yes!
million years ago, Devonian.
Excellent.
360 million
And it's going to
years
keep
ago,
saying it, but that's fine.
Devonian.
Now let's turn these
Jurassic.
two.
Time core activated.
Yes! I was thinking about this very carefully. I don't think adding that pulsing will have affected this at all. Lovely. Excellent. Oh, I'm so pleased. It's better now than it was when I started this morning. I'm very pleased, and so that is now ready to send off to Ben, and I'm really pleased with what it looks like. Once Ben's designed and 3D printed the artifact, archaeological artifact that kids are going to turn there, and printed some sort of globe or something, gem, you'll be able to see the lights through, I think that will look lovely. It's so nice when designs have so much in common. With the white labels, we've got white strips here, which looks nice as well. The brass colour, the wood colour. Oh, it just is going to look lovely. What shall I do now? Shall I get on with that video? No! I've got another exciting project, which I've almost finished as well. I don't know what it is about 1950s radio wooden cabinets, because this is someone called Spencer, who's really into his weather forecasting and things. And in fact, he's the nice man that I made the standalone barometric moving gauge meter for. And he's got this beautiful 1950s radio cabinet, and he's going to install the meter in it, but he wants to have 5 lovely little jewelled, the old-fashioned sort of jewelled gem indicators. So, I mean, this has worked out beautifully. I've learned how to use programmable LEDs. Straight afterwards, here's a project with programmable LEDs. My next job is to cut them up and then laser print some things so that he can screw them down in a sort of daisy chain. But look, and, would you Adam and Eve it, a real-time clock, and, just like we were talking about in the other video, a barometric pressure sensor joined together with I2C. Isn't that amazing how I'll talk about one thing and then the next minute I'm putting it into practice? Ooh, sends me all of a quiver. So this one has got a real-time clock because each 3 hours precisely he changes it to change and to display the weather readings and trends from the last 3 or 6 hours and display them using particular LEDs that fade up and down and things like that. So that's lovely, fade up and down at different speeds. So that's why we need the 3-hour timing facility on the real-time clock. And again, the barometric pressure sensor is to allow it to read and store the current pressure every 3 hours in quite a large array, which is why I'm using this rather than the trinket, the Adafruit trinket that I used for his pressure gauge. This just has enough memory to store lots of things, and there's quite a lot of complicated maths and stuff to go on with that. And a beautiful, even though I save so myself, a beautiful little sketch to fade these up and down. Actually, I might show you. I did a video the other day actually of the different fading effects so that he could decide which one he preferred. So actually, I'll just use them. Lovely. So I can get on with making the changes and programming that and mounting the LEDs. Oh, the fun just never ends. Right, that's time to stop this. So thanks very much for watching, if you managed to bear it. Hope to see you next time, hopefully only a couple of days, because I'm going to start working on the stepper motor video tomorrow, start filming that. So hope to see you soon. Thanks again for watching.